Well, after a temporary restraining order was issued yesterday against the Trump administration over use of the National Guard, they have now appealed to the 7th Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals. And the story continues. It's right here with Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop with you each and every weekday morning with the Center Square. Head over to thecentersquare.com where you can get the headlines in your inbox each and every weekday morning simply by going to thecentersquare.com, click newsletter, and fill out the information, what you want to hear about, and you'll get those headlines in your inbox. Not just from what's going on in Illinois, but if you go to the main page, thecentersquare.com, you'll get national headlines. So check it all out there, including stuff about the deal the Trump administration made with Israel and Hamas in the Gaza Strip. So a lot going on. Holy cow. We've also got to talk just about the Department of Homeland Security saying they're doubling down their efforts in Chicago. So happy Friday. It's Illinois in Focus Daily, each and every weekday morning here. I'm Greg Bishop, the editor of the Center Square, Illinois, host of Illinois in Focus Daily. And I also want to remind you guys, we've got the weekend edition. Jim Talamonte and I talked yesterday. Jim was in the federal court. Yes, it was before the ruling came out, but I'm talking about all the ins and outs in the weekend edition, not just focused on that, but a whole host of other things as well. So be sure to get that by subscribing to the podcast. But also, for the weekends, we give you a best of from the past week from this show. So interviews, breakdowns of the news, all of that, so that you have Illinois in Focus, a best of from the past week to help you stay informed while you're doing chores around the house and whatnot. So get to thecentersquare.com for all the information you need. But wake up with us here with Illinois in Focus each and every weekday morning. I'm Greg Bishop with the Center Square.
Extensively about how threatened our ICE officers are, but all of our law enforcement out there. And we saw the shooting in Dallas.
My lawyers are in court right now. My lawyers are in court right now as we speak for you, arguing in Chicago and Portland to keep them safe, to bring in the Guard. The government doesn't want it there, but we do.
There are constitutional limits to what the president can do. And we, of course, are taking him to court. They're in court right this moment in the hearing, what that ruling will be. And we expect the president to follow the law.
And we can solve the problem very quickly. And we're doing that anyway, regardless of if he doesn't want it or if he does want it.
Well, the Trump administration appealing a federal judge's ruling that they can't use the Illinois or Texas National Guard for public safety in Chicago, at least for 14 days. Again, the president's appealing that. Good morning. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop with you each and every weekday morning. Tons to tackle here from yesterday's court action, and you'll be able to see here from the dockets. They had the hearing yesterday, but they had a temporary restraining order issued issued by Judge April Perry, and that was ordered from the bench. And the order out with essentially saying a 14-day temporary restraining order against the Trump administration from using the Guard. But the Department of Defense, as you can see here, they have appealed. So notice of appeal from the Department of War as to the next steps here in this case of using the National Guard for public safety purposes. So let's hear from yesterday's action, because it was split screen. I'm here in the office with one computer streaming the White House press coverage of the cabinet meeting that Trump had with all of his cabinet officials. But then at the same time, Governor J.B. Pritzker was holding an unrelated news conference where he was expected to take questions about the ongoing, at that time, court case. Because while the cabinet meeting was going on and Pritzker was holding a news conference, we had our reporter Jim Talamonte in federal court at the same time, simultaneously, all going on. And the back and forth in the split screen was pretty remarkable. Here's President Trump talking about public safety in Chicago during yesterday's cabinet meeting.
I looked at crime numbers in Chicago. They're through the roof. And I have a governor stands up every day and tells us how wonderful Chicago is. Just a lie. It's like a con job. We're restoring law and order in our country. We're restoring it here, but we're restoring it right now. We're in Memphis. We're going to Chicago. We're going to other cities. Many governors are asking us to, including Democrats are trying to ask. I don't know what the big problem is. If I were a Democrat governor, I'd be saying, whatever you can do to get crime down, I'll take anybody. You can bring them in I don't care who it is. A lot of people said that. They interviewed women, these beautiful women in Chicago, black women with a MAGA hat, a red hat. They said, we don't care who he brings in here, but this place is really dangerous. We just want crime to stop. It's true.
And the president hearing that message from organizations like Chicago Flips Red, and he's talked about them quite a bit, and even Chicago Flips Red saying Trump's sending them love letters through the media. But the president obviously saying he's focused on making Chicago safe, but Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, again, at the same time that the White House is holding their cabinet meeting, the governor was at a podium in Chicago, an unrelated event, but took questions from the media and said that people are concerned about what they're seeing down the streets.
They're wearing fatigues. They're carrying long guns, automatic weapons. They're coming to downtown Chicago, Michigan Avenue. What is the purpose of that? It's all a show.
And he says it's a show, but the White House says it's not. They are focused on public safety. And again, as all this was going on, they're in court. Got the White House doing their cabinet meeting. You've got the governor holding a news conference. Pam Bondi at the White House says they're in court.
My lawyers are in court right now as we speak for you, arguing in Chicago and Portland to keep them safe, to bring in the Guard. The government doesn't want it there, but we do. We're going to keep their citizens safe, thanks to
The
you.
people want it. I don't understand the politics of it. I don't understand why Pritzker is trying to protect people that are really bad
They're
people.
more scared of the anarchists that are on the street and the politics of it than they are of doing the right thing.
I think they're afraid.
Yeah,
I think they're
they're
threatened. They don't tell us, but I think Pritzker's threatened by people. There's no other reason that this could be possible, that they don't want to have a safe Chicago. And we can solve the problem very quickly. And we're doing that anyway, regardless of if he doesn't want it or if he does want it, we're doing it anyway.
So the president is saying they're doing it anyway. And this was, of course, before the temporary restraining order was issued in federal court. And we had reporter Jim Talamonte up there. And you could see the headline, Federal Judge Grants Illinois Restraining Order Against Trump Administration for Guard Deployment. And outside the federal building there with some federal law enforcement officials, Perry said not even the most ardent Federalists, Alexander Hamilton, believed one state's militia could be sent to another for political retribution, the judge said. So this is all what was reported out by Jim in court, and I encourage you to go through and read this. Christopher Wells, and you find this at thecentersquare.com. Christopher Wells, division chief of the Illinois Attorney General's office, someone who also argued in federal court supporting the gun ban. So Christopher Wells is pretty busy with litigation for the Trump administration through the Attorney General's office, or for the Pritzker administration through the Attorney General's office. So you've got the back and forth, and a lot of this was more about whether or not the Trump administration had credibility, especially when you have several of the individuals that the Department of Homeland Security said was committing assaults against law enforcement, having their charges not go through. So interesting to hear all that and read all that. But Governor J.B. Pritzker was questioning the rationale even before the judge and all the reports coming out of the hearing yesterday in federal court. Pritzker questioned why exactly the Trump administration's doing this in Chicago.
They're saying that it's about protecting a facility. They're saying that it's about protecting ICE officers and agents. When the president repeatedly, I mean, you've said it, and I'm not at all surprised, but even after all the claims that this was about protecting facilities and people, because he started with he wants to deploy people because of crime, which is ludicrous, right? We're not even in the top 25 cities for violent crime. So he chooses Chicago first.
The governor questioning the rationale, but Trump says, listen, this is about public safety.
But here in Washington, we've deployed federal law enforcement and National Guard to restore public safety, and we're working to replicate that in numerous places all over the country. And we have a very powerful military. We have a very powerful National Guard. I want to thank the governor of Texas, who has been, as usual, great. Governor Abbott, he gave us 400 troops without even a question. And we have other governors likewise doing what has to be done because they know we have to confront crime. We're directly confronting the sinister threat of left-wing domestic terrorism and violence, including the terrorist group Antifa.
So again, the president talking about some of the rationale for using the Guard and increasing federal law enforcement in certain areas. But the Democrat-controlled areas say it's political retribution, and they seem to have gotten a district judge in Chicago to share that same sentiments with the temporary restraining order issued yesterday. Here's the governor saying that the protests are peaceful.
And I want to emphasize peaceful. That's what they're doing. That's what they're intending to do. And at least so far in the city of Chicago, in the state of Illinois, those protests really have been, I think, for the most part, admirable. And they're taking one instance of tear gas being fired by CBP or ICE into a group of people, often unprovoked, and then making it look at, well, there's smoke and there are people running around and that's mayhem on the ground, and that's going to be the excuse to send troops in, or that's going to be the excuse to do more than they're already doing.
So with the governor making that assertion that it's peaceful protests, and what has not been peaceful has been instigated by federal law enforcement. It's an interesting claim. And I guess we have to review all the different tape that's out there, especially tape that the governor is encouraging the public to get in protesting immigration enforcement. But up around the Broadview facility, where ICE has their facility, they've got significant concerns. You got state police up there who are actually doing a separate public safety mission of just ensuring people can get in and out of that building safely without having to drive through crowds of protesters. In Broadview, that's the ICE processing facility. And we're going to talk a little bit more in the next segment about all of that situation here with Illinois in Focus Daily. But one thing that the governor said yesterday, and it's interesting because kind of also goes up against what the president said yesterday. I mean, the president talking about using the National Guard said, hey, there's some Democrat governors that are liking this idea of addressing crime in their cities using more federal support, including the National Guard. But Pritzker, he says, listen, there's Republicans who have concerns about deploying the Guard in states and cities.
Some Republicans, they don't like to talk about it publicly, but privately, there's real concern on their part about what this means, this overreach of the federal government and how it is that we can protect. Because remember, even in Republican districts, these ICE and CBP agents are disrupting things and causing real havoc. And so they understand what this means. And, they can project, I don't know what's going on with Republicans in Congress, but some folks anyway, Republicans that I've talked to, can project forward and imagine, what if the tables were turned? How would it be that Republicans would react?
There you go with the latest back and forth as the Trump administration appeals a temporary restraining order prohibiting them from using the National Guard in Illinois. We'll track this for you even through the weekend as the story continues to develop. Get the headlines at thecentersquare.com and wake up with us each and every weekday morning here with Illinois in Focus Daily. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security says they're buying properties in Chicago to double down their law enforcement efforts as you've got increased assaults against federal law enforcement and a facility for processing people here allegedly illegally
You have talked
being in
extensively.
Illinois, but there's no ICE detention facilities. How's this going to work out? It's Illinois in Focus Daily with you each and every weekday morning. I'm Greg Bishop. Happy Friday. So yesterday, of course, in the previous segment, we talked about the National Guard and how a temporary restraining order was issued. And the Trump administration is appealing that ruling, all happening yesterday. The reaction to that obviously continues. Governor J.B. Pritzker does have a news event later on this morning, and it's expected he will take some off-topic questions. But some other things happening. Of course, not just the use of the National Guard for public safety coming into question as the federal judge made that ruling yesterday. You have another ruling in the Broadview area, and that's the village outside of Chicago that has a Immigration Customs Enforcement processing center. It's not where they keep them to then deport them. They get processed and then sent to another ICE facility. The Trust Act in Illinois, it's, of course, the measure that says you can't cooperate with federal law enforcement. That was signed by Governor Bruce Rauner, a Republican. But then it was enhanced with a Way Forward Act, which went further and said that you cannot contract as a public entity to Immigration and Customs Enforcement officials to house detainees. So a county jail can't use their facilities to contract with ICE to house detainees while they get processed and ultimately sent to the country of origin or wherever they get deported. So how does ICE, how does the Department of Homeland Security handle this if they can't go to a county jail, say in Lake County or even in Cook County, and say, hey, we've got 5 illegal aliens that we need to house. Can we use your jail? Here's some money. That used to happen before a Way Forward Act, but after that happened, that was cut off. So how is Immigration and Customs Enforcement going to continue their enforcement of immigration if they don't have those facilities in Illinois? So you can see how the state law is impacting federal immigration enforcement in the state of Illinois. But around the Broadview facility, you've seen some, conflicts. Illinois State Police are there. They've got a fence all around the facility. And state police are there trying to maintain order. You had Broadview issue an executive order earlier this week saying that protests can only happen between 9 in the morning and 6 in the evening. And again, state police there helping keep the peace. And also allowing for people to get in and out of that ICE facility in Broadview. But Broadview had a problem with the fence that DHS put up, and they put out this statement this morning. A federal judge has approved the Village of Broadview's motion for a temporary restraining order requiring the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency dismantle the illegally built fence on a public street in front of the ICE processing center in Broadview. It must be dismantled by today. The district judge issued that TRO Thursday. The fence was built by ICE September 23rd. Broadview Mayor Katrina Thompson said this is a validation of a local law and, most importantly, a decisive win for public safety. The judge's decision confirms that the illegal fence constructed by ICE is not only a clear defiance of Broadview's ordinance, but an unacceptable and escalating risk to our Beach Street businesses their customers, and our first responders. The law of probability dictates that the danger increases daily. The court has spoken clearly and unequivocally. Now it remains to be seen if ICE will respect the judge's order and dismantle this hazard immediately, or if they will continue their pattern of defiance. So again, that's a statement from the Broadview mayor about a judge ruling that ICE has to take the fence down around their facility. But ICE has been highlighting the dangers that their agents are facing. Here's a headline from the Department of Homeland Security. They condemn dangerous doxing and escalating threats against federal law enforcement officers. Following a weekend of domestic terrorist attacks, they say, and that links back to a news release about the Broadview conflicts against federal law enforcement. The Department of Homeland Security is calling on sanctuary politicians and the media to tone down their rhetoric about U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement law enforcement. Our officers are facing more than 1,000% increase in assaults against them, and their families are being doxxed and threatened online. So they talk about harassment at home, direct threats to families, and so on, including some messages that get pretty problematic. So you can see some of the other things they're highlighting, the mock hangings of faux ICE officers. So if you haven't gotten to the DHS news release page, search that and you'll be able to stay up to date on that as well. But they also shared some video from a recent attack they say happened. This is from the Department of Homeland Security's X page yesterday. Aurora, Illinois, a violent lunatic just attacked members of our federal law enforcement, launching rocks at their vehicle. He's now been arrested. No one's above the law. Under Secretary Noem, if you lay a hand on law enforcement, you will face consequences. We're not playing. And you can see this video here. Somebody smashing a window and being chased down by police. So DHS says that's what law enforcement are having to deal with on a regular basis. And how are they supposed to, take care of enforcing federal law if they have to fight through those types of things? So DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, taking part in the White House cabinet meeting yesterday, shared this with President Donald Trump.
You have talked extensively about how threatened our ICE officers are, but all of our law enforcement out there. And we saw the shooting in Dallas at that facility, so we're hardening all of our buildings and making sure that we have more security measures, snipers on the roof, people to protect our law enforcement while they're out there on the streets. But what I'm also doing, sir, is and with your authority, is we're purchasing more buildings in Chicago to operate out of. We're going to not back off. In fact, we're doubling down, and we're going to be in more parts of Chicago in response to the people there. And then I was there a few days ago and looked at some facilities that we can deploy more law enforcement out of, because what they're trying to do with these riots and violence is distract us and keep us from going after those murderers and rapists that are out on the streets.
So Noem saying they're going to buy more federal property in Chicago to have ICE offices to continue conducting federal law enforcement there. Again, in a state that doesn't allow local governments and other non-federal state-owned properties to use their property for contracting with ICE for immigration detainment and processing. So the feds are going to have to go out and buy their own buildings and get those set up to where they can have the operations moving forward. While the concerns about what people are calling federal overreach are obviously there, and we've heard those, look at the other side, and those who are saying we need federal law enforcement on immigration because leaving it unchecked leads to human trafficking and abuse and all kinds of other just horrifying crimes against people, and you need to crack down on that. But in a jurisdiction where it's a migrant sanctuary policy of not cooperating with local federal law enforcement by not allowing for jail beds at a county jail, which, with the Safety Act and no cash bail, jails there's some vacancies. So do we just leave those empty and not cooperate with federal law enforcement? Something that obviously is going to continue to track out as we cover it with the Center Square here with Illinois in Focus Daily. All right, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and wake up with us each and every weekday morning as we break things down for you to know as you get your day going. And don't forget, you can get the weekend edition. Jim Talamonte and I break down the arguments made in court about the federal judge issuing a temporary restraining order. You got the best of, all of it. Again, just subscribe to Illinois in Focus Daily here each and every weekday morning with the Center Square. It's Friday, and I'm anticipating stuff's going to be breaking over the weekend. It just has that vibe to it of the news cycle. It doesn't end, even if it's a Saturday, even if it's a Sunday. There's going to be plenty for us to talk about on Monday. So that's why I encourage you to wake up with us. Get your coffee ready, kick back, listen while you're, doing work. If you got the ability to pop it on your phone and listen live, but you can also get the podcast anywhere you get podcasts. So if you can't make the live show and join the live chat, then you can listen to it after the fact. Come back to the YouTube page, listen to it in its entirety there, find segments of the show, or again, listen to it on your podcast app with Illinois in Focus Daily. Have a great Friday. Hopefully you get some rest this weekend. I hope I do too, and we'll be back at it Monday morning right here with the Center Square. It's Illinois in Focus Daily.